Hey guys, and welcome back to our Pygame RPG series here on Coder's Legacy channel. In this video, we'll take a look at a really important and core mechanic, which is basically audio. Okay, now adding in music and sound into your game is a really big deal. Okay, it turns your game from something rather lifeless to something vibrant and really enjoyable. And most importantly, it helps build up that immersion effect. Okay, like when you open a door in a game, you want there to be some kind of sound effect when you open that door, right? When you hit an enemy, you want there to be some kind of sound, right? If you swing your sword, then there should be some sound, right? There should also be like supporting music in the background. Like if you're in a village, you have some light village music going on in the background. If you're in a battle, you want some battle music to be playing. If it's game over or you just won the game, or maybe you cleared a level, you want some kind of level clearing music to play. So all of this really builds up that immersion, okay, which is basically what a good game should be able to do, right? So basically what we're going to do is use the Pygame mixer library, which is just a submodule within Pygame, okay? So what we have here in front of us is a folder of sounds, okay, and I'll open it up right now, and you can see that we have a few basic sounds in here. Here's our background village music, which is basically going to be our main background, and there's some battle music in here. There's an enemy hit, so when you hit an enemy, it produces a very slight sound, okay, and here's a fireball sound, a game over sound, and a couple of sword slash sounds, okay. So yeah, now we're going to be using these sounds in our game here today and hopefully increase the immersion effect. Now I will point out that these sounds are not, like all you can add. You can add way more, okay? They're like, given the number of mechanics you currently have, you could probably add up to like 20 sounds, 20 to 30, okay? But we don't really, have the time for that, and I can't sit there and individually add 30 sounds, so I'm just going to do a few, and if you guys want to add some more, go ahead. I'll leave the link to some good sites which have free sounds and stuff available. This is like freesound.org. You can check that out. Okay, so yeah, without further ado, let's continue. What I want to do now is create a music manager class. The Pygame mixer library, which is a submodule within Pygame, is pretty good, okay, but I want to create my own class, okay, as a wrapper around it. Okay, so after importing the Pygame library, what we'll do is create our music manager class. Okay, now I'm going to create the init function first, okay, and what I want to do basically, the very first thing is create an empty dictionary, okay, and this empty dictionary will have all our sounds in it, or more specifically, it's going to have the names for all our sounds and all our music files, okay, and then we'll use these to basically, we'll use these to call our sounds, okay, so all we do is create our music manager object and then just call the load this sound function, okay, so we'll do like music manager dot load sound, and in the brackets just write the name, and voila, our sound plays, okay, so just watch. I'm going to create a function called load sounds, okay, and what I'm going to do here is add stuff to our dictionary, okay, and if you aren't very familiar with dictionaries, how they're added is basically key is equal to value. Okay, now here we have our sounds, okay, here are all of our sounds, okay. What I want to do basically is add them into our dictionary. So the reason I actually picked a dictionary instead of a list was because of something like this, actually. Background, okay, is equal to background underscore village dot wave. Now which one would you prefer to write? When calling the load sound function, would you prefer to write this or would you prefer to write this? Obviously this, right? So basically what I'm doing here is just creating an easier alias, basically an easier name with which we can call it. It doesn't have the extension for one, it just has the name, so that's pretty cool, okay. And later on, if we want to, we could just come back into our program and just change this over here, okay. If we want to change our background file, all we need to do is just change this file over here to something else like background village 2, and everywhere where we use the this name to play the background music will automatically update, and that's pretty cool, right? A program that's easily flexible and can easily be extended or maintained is the superior program. Okay, always remember that. I could have condensed this video into a 10-minute video, but we're gonna go up to like 15 to 20 minutes just so you can properly take a look at all this and basically all the different techniques that we can use to make a good game, and one that's easily upgradable, flexible, and can be extended easily later on. Okay, so this is basically the technique that we're gonna use. Okay, so self.sounds, and this is going to be a little boring, I know, but let's just quickly go ahead and copy paste this a few times. Okay, and then just change this. So we'll call on battle. Okay, and over here we'll load in the battle music. Okay, it's come up with short nice nicknames, okay, that we can use. And there's enemy hit. Okay, so when we hit the enemy, okay, and then there's what else, fireball. Okay, and we'll just change that for fireball sound. And this is better because you don't need to go around changing the names over here, by the way, because you don't always want to do that, right? So yeah, and over here, game over dot wave. Okay, am I missing something? Yes, I am. Okay, so sword. Okay, that's our sword effect sound. We'll just load in sword 1. Okay, and here we go. Here are 6 sounds, okay, and we'll try to implement all of them in today's video. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and focus on some other functions. Okay, and over here I'm going to go ahead and create a load sound function. Okay, self, and this takes a name. Okay, now in the name, what's going to happen is that we're going to try to access this dictionary. Okay, so basically pygame.mixer.sound, this is basically what we use to create a sound effect. Okay, sound effect, and I'm gonna load up our sound. Okay, now if everything went okay, this should work. Okay, now what should happen is that you type in something like sword. Okay, and what happens is that it goes into here. Okay, so self.sounds, and we're searching for the key sword, and it should return this over here, the string over here, which is basically what the pygame.mixer.sound constructor wants. It wants a string to the sound effect that it needs to load up. Okay, and then it returns that sound in here. And then what we do is something like sound effect dot set volume. Okay, we don't need to do this, by the way. It has a default sound, but I still want to, and I'll take a parameter for that. Okay, and then I'm going to do sound effect dot play. That is it. Okay, so yeah, voila, we're done. That's all there is to it. Now, music and sound are different, by the way. Okay, so I need to create a separate function for this, and you could also consider just creating 2 separate dictionaries, one for sounds, one for music. That's totally up to you. Do as you wish. Okay, and here I have volume as well. Okay, music is called a bit differently. Okay, it's like this. Oh, and one important thing I should mention is that multiple sound effects can be playing at once, but only one music track can be playing at any given time. Okay, so this is something kind of important to remember. Okay, so I'll do set volume first. Okay, set volume, and put the volume in there, and then we'll do the loading. Okay, dot load. And over here, what am I going to put is self.sounds, okay, and the name, and then pygame.mixer. Okay, typo over there, and over here .music.play. Okay, now, and one more thing. Let me just do this first. Okay, so the thing is that this takes an extra parameter. This parameter basically defines how long the music plays. Okay, so for example, if you have some background music playing, okay, and you want it to run infinitely, don't you? Because usually you don't have background music just play once, right? You usually have it looping, don't you? So what you can do actually is pass in -1, okay, and that'll make it loop infinitely. Okay, alternatively 0 is the default, which plays once. okay, then you can do 1, which will repeat once. If you pass 2, it'll repeat twice. Okay, so that's basically how it works. Then we'll do stop. Okay, I'll make a stop function, and this just stops any current music being played. You can go ahead and make as many as you want. You can make one for repeat as well, and for rewinding maybe. Okay, but basically you get the gist of it, right? This is our music manager basically. We're now ready to go and use our music manager within our game files. Okay, we can now create the object for it and then start calling these functions. Okay, but just one last thing, I need to actually load these sounds up once the object initializes. Okay, so as soon as we initialize the object, the sounds will load. Okay, so without further ado, let's minimize and open up our game file. Okay, and the very first thing we'll try to play is the background music. Okay, so we'll come up here and say from music manager import music manager. And by the way, we're pretty much done. Okay, I'm just going to show you guys now how we can use our music manager and where we can put it. Okay, so we'll just focus on playing a few sounds, and I'll come over here, okay, and create our object music manager. Okay, and what I want to do is music manager dot load music. Okay, and what music do we want to play? The background. Okay, and what's the number of times we want it to play? And that's -1, obviously. Let me just go back and see that again. Okay, there are 3 parameters: name, volume, and num. Okay, now I just need to put in the volume. Okay, oh, and I forgot to mention this, that the volume ranges from 0 to 1. Okay, it's decimal values basically. So 0.05, 0.5, 0.6. Okay, these are all values that you can pick. From my experience, 1 is pretty loud, so I just usually tone it down quite a bit to like 0.2. Okay, I don't need to give the third parameter because I've already assigned it a default value in here. Okay, num -1, so we'll just leave that empty. If I want to do something different, like I only want it to play once, then I can override it by passing 0, otherwise I'll just leave it. Okay, so with this we should have our game working, the audio. So let's see what happens. So it turns out all I needed to do was add this file path over here, and the reason for that is because the sound folder isn't in the same directory exactly. I mean the sounds. So what you need to do actually is use the sound folder's file path. Okay, so this makes it even more imperative to have a system like this where you just need to type in the name and it'll automatically load the appropriate sound for you. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here and we'll go ahead and run this. Alright, here's our sound. Okay, alright, so that was our background music. Okay, now the thing is, we don't always want our background music to be playing, right? As you saw in the video, even though we began fighting enemies, the background music was still playing. Now, there's nothing wrong with music in the background, but it needs to be appropriate. Okay, so what we want to do is basically switch to battle music whenever we're fighting enemies. Okay, so I'll pass in the music manager into the level manager over here. Okay, then go to our level manager. Okay, and what I've done is this basically. Okay, I've passed in the music manager into it, and I've actually made these changes beforehand, so that's why they're already here. But basically the music manager has now been passed into the level manager. Okay, and we now have a reference to the music manager, and this is kind of important because the level manager handles levels, right? And levels are related to sounds because different sounds and different musics play on different levels. So you may have a level with a village, so you want a different music theme over there. You have a level which has a battle theme, a level with maybe a forest theme or something. So yeah, basically. So I'm going to come down here to the change level function, and we'll basically, when you change levels, that's when the music should change too, right? So what I'm going to do is pygame dot, sorry, what am I doing? So if self.levels, okay, this is basically the level data, by the way. Okay, all the level data stored here. for all the different levels, and I'll do self.level, which is basically the current level. Okay, so self.levels is the current level, and then I can do .enemy count. Okay, and the enemy count is basically the number of enemies inside a level. Okay, if you go back to the level class, you'll see this variable in there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is say that if it's equal to 0, then pygame.mixer. Oh wait, sorry. I meant soft.musicmanager.load music background. Okay, and what's this going to be? The volume 0.3, if I remember correctly. Okay, and we can do else. Okay, copy this over here and load in battle music. Okay, so this is basically a very basic piece of code that when we change levels, if the enemy count is 0, okay, if there are no enemies, then what it'll do is play the background music, the normal one. Otherwise, it'll play the battle music, okay, which means there are enemies over there. Okay, now there are obviously a lot of things we can do to enhance this. Okay, there's still some issues with this, which we'll see once I run the code, but this is just the basic gist of it. Okay, and over here, let's see, what else can we change? Is there anything else that I need to add over here by any chance? Okay, let's go back to our game folder. Okay, all right. What you can also do, by the way, is like change something over here, so that if the number of enemies drops to 0, you can stop the music from playing. Okay, there's way too much in audio to actually perfectly implement this. Okay, right now in front of you guys, there's stuff like what if. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. All right, so let's run this and see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna run it now. Okay. Okay, so what we can observe is a really big issue. One thing is that when we go between levels, okay, and if the level is the same, okay, for example, we go from one village level to another village level, one thing I can notice is that the sound repeats itself. Okay, and besides this, there are many things that we can improve actually. Like for example, we can sort of build up a transition into the background music. Okay, like the music plays abruptly, it just starts. So one thing you can do is either get some music that actually has a slow transition, like it starts off at a low volume, then slowly progresses. Or what you could do is build up the transition yourself by changing the volume, so by slowly incrementing the volume until you reach your desired volume, basically. Okay. Other than this, there are a lot of things that we can. Other than this, there are a lot of things that we can actually improve. Okay, there is no ending to it, and unfortunately, we can't actually cover all of them here. I'm just trying to mention them to you, point them out to you, so that you can go ahead and fix them. Okay, I'll just give you a general idea on how to fix it as well. Okay, so what you can do here is self.level is equal to n, right? What we're doing is overriding the current level being played. Okay, so what you could do is we don't need that. Previous level is equal to self.level. So before it gets changed, you can store the previous level. Okay, and then what you could do is over here compare the levels. Okay, what you could do is something like now the problem is that okay, what we could do is self.previous level. Oh wait, it's not self. So level like this. Okay, what I'm going to do is compare it to the current level. Okay, now obviously I'm not really comparing the level. Actually, what I want to do is compare the enemy counts within them. Okay, so this basically. So if the enemy counts were the same, okay, then don't change the music, okay? Because if we're transitioning from a stage with 0 enemies to a stage with 0 enemies, we don't need to change the background. If we're transitioning from one battle stage to another battle stage, we don't need to change the music, right? So if this is the case, simply return, okay? Or another way of saying this would be, if they're not equal to each other, only then do I want you to change the music. So if I was to do this again, alright, slight oversight. Basically the enemy count can be different in different levels, obviously. But that's something we can work around, okay? And we should actually have a better audio system than this, because even different battle levels can have different battle sounds, okay? And this is actually fine, because once you kill the enemies, the battle music should probably fade, okay? And again, you can change that in the update function, okay? There's so much that we can add into this that honestly we can't really cover that all, okay? So I'm just trying to point it out to you and explain how it can be done so that you can do it yourself if you want to. Alright, so we've done quite a bit so far, and let's just wrap up soon, okay? The last thing I want to do is just add in all the player related sounds, okay? We'll still have one left over, which is the enemy hit one, which I think is part of the enemy class. I think it should be in the enemy class. So if that's the case, then you guys can go ahead and do that on your own if you want to. The technique for it is the same thing as the player, okay? So don't worry. Okay, I'm going to pass in Music Manager into the player, because the player needs to be able to access the Music Manager's functions, okay? So now I'll go to the player class, and over here, I'll say Music Manager, okay? And self.music manager, okay? Now, I'm going to come down here. Where should I put the attack function, the attack sound? So somewhere over here. Okay, let's put it over here. So what I'll do is self.music manager, and I'll say load sound, and this time we're doing sound, not music. What's the name of that sound? We called it sword, and we'll give it a volume of maybe 0.4. Maybe my recommendation is to keep the volume of the sound a little above the music, because just in case that the music doesn't overpower the sound. The sound should be more audible than the music in most cases, in my opinion. Anyways, so I have the sound effect over here, okay? And what I want to do now is, okay, here's the player hit function, and here's the fireball function. So this is where I'm going to add the fireball sound, okay? And see, this is all pretty simple now. We made a good class, and now in a single line we can play any sound or any music, okay? And this is why I'm not going to take this video too far. You guys can add as many sounds as you want to, okay? So yeah. And of course, use mana potion. This is something that can obviously have a sound, okay, but we just don't have one of those right now. And jumping can also have a sound if you guys want to do that. And yeah, pretty much. Okay, so it turns out that we haven't actually implemented the game over yet, the game over part. The only thing that happened so far is that the health bar turns gray, okay? So, you know what? We'll just leave the game over sound for later, because we'll release a video later on where we actually implement the game over screen and everything. So then we can go ahead and add in that sound over there. Now that we have a few sound effects implemented, let's go ahead and see how it all turned out. Okay. Okay, so that was our audio. Okay, and already I think we can see that the game is becoming more lifelike, and we're one step closer to actually, emulating a proper game. Okay, where it actually makes sense. So with this, actually, our series is pretty much complete. Our game is still pretty incomplete in many ways, and yes, that is deliberate. The point of this series wasn't to create a finished game that you guys could play or something like that. The point was to build up concepts, to build many mechanics into this, and show you guys how it's done. Okay, so I hope I succeeded in showing you guys that. Okay, we're still gonna release some stuff later on, maybe like bonus content. There's still many ideas that I have. Okay, so if I get the time and the motivation, then I will, sure, we can go ahead and release some extra content, and especially if you guys are interested, that is. So yeah, with this we're pretty much done. Okay, and I hope you guys enjoy the series. I hope you guys subscribe to the channel and keep an eye out for more future content. There'll be a lot more content about Pygame or other Python stuff, other programming languages in the future, so I do hope you guys stick around. Okay, otherwise I'll see you guys later. With this, we're basically done with the series. You can find all the code, all the materials, all available for download in the description below. Okay, and if there's anything else that you guys want to share with me, anything about the series that you thought, and your feedback, then please do leave it in the comment section below. And thank you all for your support. Later.